Welcome to 30-Minute Reviews. I am Adam. So, today we are doing this from my laptop. My microwave. My microphone is not cooperating. Rather than the usual, I have a headset. The microphone on the headset is, for whatever reason, not being picked up by my laptop. So, it's kind of a weird thing going on here. Regardless, let's talk about a movie that is a little bit on the older side, from 1979, very obviously trying to cash in on the craze that became as a result of Star Wars in 1977. Let's talk about this movie, The Black Hole. Now, I was interested in this. I saw a toy based on the movie, and the movie came up with my suggestions on Disney Plus. Where you can watch this movie. It's a Disney movie. Now, I'm not going to pretend that I did not fall asleep watching this movie because I was exhausted and I got home from work and I watched it. That said, here's the premise of the movie. And this is basically all the setup that there is. And this movie is very heavily homaged in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. There's a few scenes in here that you see are like, it's not the first time this has been done. It might be the first time because it was 1979. It's not the last time it's been done. It's just the most recent that I can think of off the top of my head. Basically, here's the premise. We have this ship, and they go to, they're cruising along and they find a space station out at the edge of a black hole, where it's just on the cusp of being pulled into the event horizon of the black hole. And naturally, they go and investigate the ship. They want to see what's going on with it, what it's doing. It's more of a space station than a ship. That's a poor choice of words. So they go aboard and they decide to investigate. What they find is the crew here is an old American crew that was out exploring deep space that's been lost for some time, and hijinks ensue. They elect to go on board. They want to see what's going on, and they come in contact with the crew of this ship. And over the course of the movie, it becomes more and more unsettling what this crew is up to. And there's a scene, the scene that really clicked the homage to it in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is there's a scene where the crew of the ship that found it, with Ernest Borgnine and a few other actors of the era. Ernest Borgnine, for those who don't know, you may know him as the voice of Mermaid Man, but he's also an Academy Award-winning actor. And what happens is each person here goes off on their own little side mission, and they end up reporting back that something is wrong. And it's like, yeah, I know that they did this they also did an Avatar: The Last Airbender in book 2, but I'm thinking Guardians of the Galaxy is where it really hit, because the framing of the scene, when they come together and they're like, something's not right here. The way that scene is shot, down to the cinematography and the dialogue, very reminiscent of a similar scene with Gamora and Star-Lord. And when Star-Lord's gone and the rest of the team all comes together, with that scene where it looked like the scene from the trailer, we're not friends, we're family, that Drax says, that scene really feels like it came from this movie. And that's not a knock on Guardians of the Galaxy, that's just saying that there is inspiration to be had in older movies, and the inspiration does influence what we see now. It's a good movie. It's a surprisingly good movie. It's very obviously derivative of Star Wars, and it comes from like the robots, the design of the ship. It's a very low budget design, which is very utilitarian, which is what Star Wars was too. If we look back to what's it called? When you look back to A New Hope, or as it was at release, Star Wars, very utilitarian, and the design of the empire and the design of everything comes from the fact that they had a very small budget to deal with, and a lot of the budget had to go into effects and miniatures and things like that. So you see a lot of sets that are very enclosed and in that way, because computer graphics weren't quite what they are today. This movie has that too, where it's like very enclosed spaces. You don't really see out into space too much, because a lot of the effects come in when it comes to animating the black hole that we see throughout the movie, and when you also see the what's it called, like the like laser fire from gunfights. There's the character Vincent, who is definitely not R2-D2 because he can talk. He doesn't just beep at you. He can talk. The character Maxwell. I think Maxwell is one of my favorite evil robots now, because he's got a certain, like, not snark or anything like that, kind of like, or like flippant passive aggressivism. It's just like he's very blunt. And I think that Maxwell is probably one of my favorite evil robots in a movie. Definitely check this out if you haven't already. It's on Disney Plus, and since we're all on quarantine anyway, there's no reason not to watch this movie. It's definitely worth your time to watch. I'm going to apologize too for the echo, because back last May I did a few episodes from the same space where I'm recording this now, in the living room, and we have these giant tall ceilings that don't exactly control sound very well. So it's going to bounce around a bit. So you may hear an echo from that. What else is there? There was one other thing I want to talk about this episode. So China is slowly pulling out of the coronavirus crisis. As a result, movie theaters are starting to reopen across that country. Meanwhile, domestically, we still do not have movie theaters open. In the meantime, while the movie theaters reopen and while the studios realign their release schedules with the new situation they have, as it turns out, they are they are releasing older movies. They're releasing Inception, Avatar, and all 4 Avengers movies. Now, I'm going to say right now, Avatar is going to be the number 1 spot on the all-time highest grossing list, following this thing, because they love Avatar over there. Avatar's record-setting box office was made almost entirely on the back of China. And so I could see that happening pretty easily. Meanwhile, conversely, Endgame did do a lot in China, but it also had the domestic numbers to back it up. Avatar didn't quite have the domestic numbers to do that. I wouldn't be surprised if they do the same thing here, because here's the situation. Right now, we are in the thick of this very bizarre situation. For a lot of people, quite frankly, horrifying, because people have family who are dying. They may be dying themselves. There's a lot of and you know, for them it's scary, because it's like not only that, but people are losing their jobs, people are losing their livelihood, all across the country. And meanwhile, there are people like me who work in a drugstore, and you're not really. You're seeing people who are coming in scared and all of that, but we have the this is a weird situation, where it's like no one alive today can say they've ever witnessed anything quite like this in their lifetime. So that's where we are with this right now. When this is over and the movie theaters start to reopen, they're not going to open up a movie that first weekend the movie theaters reopen, because number one, the social distancing protocols are still going to be in effect. They're just going to allow businesses to reopen, because social distancing is still going to be practiced, because the virus is still going to be out there. It's still going to be able to, infect people, especially if they haven't gotten it already. But the thing is, it's when they get to the point where they can reopen businesses, this is a little bit of a disconnect that's happening. When they get to the point where they can reopen businesses, it's because the infection rate has gotten to the point where the hospitals can manage it. And that's why it's so important to quarantine right now. The issue isn't, people are going to die quickly. The issue is the hospitals can't handle the infection rate that would have happened if the businesses had all been open. So by staying home, what you're doing is you are slowing down the spread of the infection. because even if you don't get sick, you become a carrier and you can get other people sick who will then have to be hospitalized or put on ventilators. And it's just designed to keep people safe. But when we get to the point where movie theaters are able to reopen, they're going to keep the same situation they were like the week before. Oh my God, it was only like a week ago. It feels like years at this point. But when they instituted the social distancing policies at, like, say, Regal or at AMC or at, I know it's just called, what's it called? I know that their rewards program is called Star Pass. I don't know what the name of the theater chain is. What they did was they had, like, the seats, every other seat was, closed up, or every two seats there was an empty one between them. And every other row was completely blacked out. You couldn't buy seats there. So what they ended up doing with they ended up closing the theaters down. All the movies got delayed, and movies have been put out on digital now in an effort to offset it. Here is the situation now. When this is over, people are still going to be afraid to go out. So in an effort to not make the box office a complete wash for the year and write the entire year off as a loss, because Disney's hemorrhaging money at this point, Universal, all these places, because they have multiple revenue streams, but all these revenue streams are all shut down. So with this happening, I think it would be smart for them to do this here. Now, in America, we have a different set of movies that will drive people to the box office to try and restore a sense of normalcy. And I saw someone tweet about how, the Disney parks are closed now for obvious reasons. And they said, what's it called? There's going to be, if you've watched the Imagineering documentary on Disney Plus, which is, I know it's just, a very whitewashed version of Disney history created as a propaganda piece. It's so interesting, though, the way they did the parks. And if you're looking for something else that's interesting about Disney history that doesn't quite shy away from the things that are less good, The Queens of Animation by, let me just look up the name of the author real quick. The Queens of Animation by Nathalia Holt. It's a fantastic book. I just finished it. It's about the women who broke the glass ceiling at the Walt Disney Company back through the 30s. And there's actually a lot of really interesting information in there that I didn't know. Like, apparently the treatment for Frozen was written back in 1938. Then it came back in the 80s. And in the 80s, when they came up with, like, Anna and Elsa and all these characters, and then, like, Fantasia was a bomb when it came out because of how advanced the technology had to be to function the movie the way it was intended. And quite honestly, the technology we have is technology we have today. But what I could see them doing, because of that's why I was going with this. I saw someone say, sorry, Cuomo sent out another tweet. That's why my phone buzzed. So the what was I saying? In another documentary like that in a few years, when the parks reopen, there's going to be this sense of there's going to be some self-righteous Disney executive on there who's going to very straight-laced say, when the parks reopened, America knew it was going to be okay. I think I know I saw the tweet from Orange Grove 55 on Twitter. He's got really good theme park information. I really like his feed. But either way, there's got to be something similar for movies. And the issue is you can't launch right into a new release because you don't want to, while there's still the hesitation to go to the movies, you don't want to release Wonder Woman in 1984. You don't want to release Black Widow. You don't want to like Artemis Fowl, maybe. Not Scoob, not, there's a lot of things you don't want to push out right in that moment. Because you don't want to make it like you're trying to force people back to the theaters. You don't want movies that have cost you a lot of money or been delayed a lot of time to what's it called? To bomb. So you want something to come of it. So you want something good. I think the best thing they can do is re-release classics. As I said with Fantasia, what Disney could probably do now with everyone working remotely is they could probably work on a Fantasia cut that operates with Dolby Cinema or 4DX or something like that, and put Fantasia out in these insane premium formats. Do a re-release of the theatrical run of Star Wars. And when I say that, I mean the despecialized editions of Star Wars Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. Exactly as they were in theaters in the 70s and the 80s, run those back. Run all of Star Wars. Do a marathon of it. People, I know I made fun of it. I saw that joke making fun of it, and it was like, it's gonna be like this sense. But at its core, entertainment centers people. The point of entertainment is escapism. And if we want to return to a sense of normalcy when this is all over, we have to make people more comfortable going back to the theaters. And what better way to make people comfortable going back to the theaters than to bring in what we've seen already and what we know is kind of a comforting place. Like, I was talking to my mom about it yesterday, and she said that, I voiced the idea of maybe they could do Star Wars here because, in China, when Star Wars came out, they weren't allowing foreign media into the country. So what ended up happening was when The Force Awakens came out and The Last Jedi, Solo, all of that, all the Disney-era Star Wars movies, they all bombed in China. And the reason is Star Wars is a very niche movie, and if you didn't grow up with it and have the nostalgic memories that go along with it, you can kind of see through. Everyone kind of has rose-colored glasses when it comes to Star Wars. And at its core, if you watch Star Wars now, you can't start with Episode 4 to someone who's never seen it before and doesn't have the attachment of, oh, my dad grew up with this, or, oh, my grandfather grew up. At this point, my grandfather grew up with it. You can't have that to someone who's never seen it before. They're going to be like, this is awful. And even if the movie is strong, people are going to, do it. And really, if you're going to make them slog through all of them, going from Episode 6, Episode 1, Episode 2, Episode 3, that's going to turn off a lot of people. So when the new ones came out, there was a lot of what happens in The Force Awakens especially is driven by nostalgia that people didn't have over there. So then when the sequel came out, they're like, why do I care? I didn't like the first one. This is made for someone who isn't me. Why do I want to see it? So here's the what's it called? The big deal, and the big thing. Bring it to America. And we were talking to my mom about. I was talking to my mom about it, and she says a different experience to see Star Wars in theaters, and I was 100% agreeing with her. For very different reasons, there are two movie theater going experiences that are going to stick with me probably for the rest of my life. Seeing The Force Awakens opening night, and seeing Endgame opening night. The Force Awakens opening night, I was amped for that movie because the last Star Wars movie I saw in theaters would have been the same as everyone else, or most everyone else, because most people didn't see the Clone Wars in theaters, would have been Episode 3. And people were applauding the entire way through the movie, and it annoyed the crap out of me. But when I sat in the theater, and there may not have been the Fox fanfare, which turned off a lot of people for some reason, but when I sat down in the theater and the movie opened and it said Episode 7, it was like, this is what I'm here for. And then even going into The Rise of Skywalker with the sense of dread that I did, anticipating the movie wasn't going to be very good, and thinking there's no way they're going to stick this landing. That instant that the movie started and it said Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, there was this sense of relief that this comfort, like a comforting blanket that hit when I saw that. Meanwhile, on the other end, Avengers Endgame, that was I wouldn't say it was the rowdiest movie theater I've ever been in, because Creed has that, because I'm fairly certain that people watching the fight thought that Creed, the fight in Creed was happening live. And Creed was a really good movie too. But there was an applause in Endgame when Captain America lifts Thor's hammer and just curb stomps Thanos with it, which at some point on the podcast I definitely said was going to happen in the fourth Avengers movie. I'm not going to go back and listen to every episode to find where I said that, but I definitely did say that was going to happen. I don't want to be that guy, but I did. And the thing is, too, just a narrative thing that you knew was going to happen because of because of the trajectory that they set him on, because the same writers who've been handling Captain America since the first Avenger, so you knew where they wanted to go with it. And he he from that the everyone coming out with the portals and the Avengers assemble. Um, that that theater was like electric with the amount of energy that scene built. Um, and every time subsequently that I saw that, because I saw it the day it came out, then I saw it the next day with my brother. Same reaction. And then I saw it like a week later, a third time in Dolby. The theater was a lot more empty because it was like a Tuesday, and people were still in school. Um, so like it was still the theater was mostly empty, but like the chills that scene elicited because of how well shot, well set up, and like the entire movie up until that point is like there are a few movies like that where it's like, I can live without seeing the beginning of that movie, and I wish there was an option to avoid seeing that part of the movie, like Rogue One, Jurassic World, and Avengers Endgame. If I can get through, you have to slog through a bit, but that last hour of the movie is worth it. And like Jurassic World, especially with like just the third act, give me just the third act. I'll watch just the third act all day of the first Jurassic World movie. And then like what was the other one? Oh, Rogue One. There's a lot of nonsense you gotta sit through in Rogue One, and people forget about that because of how good the fight is on Scarif, and how great the ending of that movie is, and Vader attacking Vader attacking the rebels. Because of how good that scene is, people forgive a lot of the crap you got to sit through in that first half with Forrest Whitaker, and it's just not like his like you came to kill me, and it's just so overacted. It's just I don't know. But same thing with Endgame to an extent because it's like the setup for getting to the time heist. By the time you get to the time heist, you're like, all right, let's get this over with. And then the time heist is, again, kind of boring. It's a lot of character development stuff. But, like, if I'm sitting through it, like, it's kind of like Avatar where I'm not going to sit through it again at home. But if they re-release it in theater, I'll watch it again. I will 100% go and see that movie again because there is no other movie. I saw it a fourth time, too, and the same thing happened because I saw the movie the fourth time with the extended sequence with the Hulk at the end and the special look at Far From Home. And I get like the same reaction happened each time, and I've never seen a movie where that happened. So 100% that movie's gonna get re-released. I think they're gonna re-release all the Avengers movies. If they didn't do the first, and if they didn't do Age of Ultron, that'd be fine. If they did just a double feature of Infinity War and Endgame, I think they really nailed what an Avengers movie should be with those. Because I talked about it before with Infinity War, where it's like the intro for all the characters, it feels like you're reading a comic book. Like when they start out on the ship and you see you see Thanos with everyone, and then they go to Earth, and it's just all the heroes just slowly come into the fight as they realize what's going on. And the same thing happens in Scotland where they are, and then it happens again with when they introduce the Guardians. Everything you need to know about the Guardians, if you hadn't seen Guardians and Guardians 2, is introduced in that very brief sequence when they get the distress call and they're on the ship listening to Rubber Band Man, and they explain what they're going to do. Everything you need to know about the Guardians is very concisely summed up in that sentence. That way, if you aren't reading the ongoing for the Guardians, you know that. It's the same thing with Doctor Strange. It tells you everything you need to know about Doctor Strange, assuming you hadn't seen his movie. And it's like the way they handled the fight with everyone trying to fight Thanos at once, it was just that's hands down the best of the Marvel movies is Infinity War. And then you get to Endgame, and it's just, I saw someone say you can get an immersive Endgame experience right now by watching Infinity War, going out, driving around the block a few times, then going home and, watching Endgame. But I don't think that was the intent of the filmmakers at the time. I think that that would be a smart decision, re-releasing Star Wars, re-releasing that. Inception would be another one that they re-released in China that I could see them doing here as well, especially with Tenet coming out soon. That or Interstellar. I think Inception has a bigger fan base, though. while they're doing re-releasing movies, I think they could also, because I'm thinking my theater has nine. Well, I'm going to go with the one that has a premium format. It's got 17 screens that they can fill up. And I don't think they want to have as many options as possible, so that way they have as many people coming in. So I think you can have one movie per screen. So like maybe John Wick for people who missed John Wick in theaters, because that really got a fan base after from good word of mouth. So that's something else I could see them putting in. John Wick 2, John Wick 3 is like a triple feature. I could see them doing, that doesn't have to be recent, but like Indiana Jones, I could see them putting in theaters. Back to the Future. Just classics that people missed. And not missed because they didn't see it, but missed because they weren't born yet. Maybe bring these back to people who hadn't seen it before. Give people a chance to see the movie. It's just such a good idea, and it's something that's really going to help drive home the sense that we are back to normal now. Because think about how weird the situation is. On top of the fact all the businesses are closed, we have no new media coming out. Every production is halted right now. TV, movie, sports, everything is halted. We're a few weeks away from there being no new content for anyone to watch, which for movies is a little bit different because there's no new movies coming out in theaters, and they're not just going to dump everything onto onto the internet, onto like Amazon Prime or something, because they would end up losing money. But there's so much that they're just not able to do. It's like even television, like all of the CW shows that I watch, like The Flash, Supergirl, Legends, all of that, they're on hiatus now because they don't know what to do. They're re-airing Crisis on Infinite Earths next week, or 2 weeks from now. 2 weeks from now, they're re-airing Crisis on Infinite Earths. So until they can figure out what they're going to do, they don't know what they're going to do. In this weird interlude. What else is there? I feel like there's definitely more that I wanted to talk about. There are more movies that would be great to see in theaters that I didn't get to see in theaters the first time. But I would definitely, if they just did like two, I would see all the Star Wars movies in theater. If they did just the original trilogy and they released it despecialized, like do a day where you put Disney movies back in theater, like put Peter Pan back in theaters, they're not going to do Dumbo for obvious reasons, but like Snow White. Let people have that theater-going experience that they missed out on purely because they were born too late for it. And it'd be a great way to really, help return the country to a sense of normalcy and ease people back into the way they were before this. And it would also be a good way to make sure it's not a complete wash when at the box office this year. But like, It'd be really cool if they did that. So I'm looking forward to the possibility of that happening. So we'll wrap up there for today. I'm gonna end up watching another movie on Disney Plus. We will talk about that when I see what it is. It's probably gonna be another older one. If I can find an older science fiction movie, that'd be great. I've never seen Tron before. Maybe I'll do Tron. So maybe I'll watch that tonight. And we'll do an episode for for next week. If you have any suggestions on other movies we can talk about, feel free to tweet in at 30min review. We also are opening up, if you want to talk about if there's any movies that I missed that you think could be re-released in theaters to see how that goes. Also tweet that in at 30min review. So until then, we'll be back next week with probably Tron. I'll be taking notes. And we'll be back with our regular discussion of Arrow, starting back with season 1. I got to see what episode I left off on. But we'll be back with that too. So until then, have a great rest of your week. And beware of spoilers. We have a cool thing starting in the next few days that I will be announcing on a podcast probably tomorrow. And then we'll kick right off into it. After that point. So look out for that on Beware of Spoilers. Have a great night.